Here's Christina with another rant, so to speak. I want to talk about racial expectations. And when I say that, I mean like what, society or a group of people might expect one race to act like, but not the other. For example, you take, me, an African American, and you might expect me to listen to R&B, hip hop, rap, dress in, the baggier clothes, data, black man, that type of thing. And you'll take a white person, you might expect them, to do another thing, hang out with white people, date a white girl, whatnot. And that's, expectations. You would think that a black person would associate more with another black person because they feel more linked, and that a white person would do the same. Same thing with, like, a Chinese or Japanese or whatnot. But, I mean, the main thing, at least in this, society, is, like, the black and the white culture, so to speak. So that's something that I can identify, that I'd kind of like to talk about. Like with me, I grew up in a very, very white neighborhood, and I have no problem with it. I don't regret it. I still live here. I love my town, no problem. And, through most of my life, I'll say I didn't even really comprehend racism. It was like, for me, it was like the 60s, back of the bus thing. It wasn't something that was current, that was relevant to my life. I mean, it's only now that I'm starting to realize that there's a difference, and yeah, it's shocking and it's sad, but I mean, it's kind of like, like how Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and all these other civil rights activists, fought to say that we're the same and that we deserve to do the same. We're not going to sit in the back of the bus because of the color of our skin. But then, you'll be walking around in a predominantly black neighborhood, and, you might be wearing, Abercrombie and Fitch and listening to Britney Spears. And, they'll be like, you can't do that, you're black. And it's kind of like, that's just same as the white administration being like, you can't sit there, you're black. And these are restrictions that they're putting on themselves. And I don't want to say hypocritical. I think it's ignorance, if anything. Like, in my college, I have several people who say, you act like a white girl. And it's kind of like, I act like I act. I grew up where I grew. These are how my friends talked. I talk this way because that's who I am. That's how I choose to talk. That's what I like. I'm not going to disrespect you or judge you because you talk the way you want to talk. And I think it's really sad that there's so many racial expectations. You know what? Like, there's gender expectations. You can't help that. There's, age expectations. But racial, I mean, that's a little ridiculous. I mean, like, where you grew up is going to be who you are, kind of like how you talk, who you hang out with, what music you listen to. And, if all your friends are white, you're going to listen to the quote-unquote white music, and vice versa. If all your friends are black, you're going to listen to the quote-unquote black music. And, I mean, that's not a bad thing. Like, yes, I agree that it's good to be in touch with your culture. It's always good to have diversity also. But, like, to say you can't do this because of your color, that's like taking away from everything the civil rights movement, stood for. Freedom, equality. It's like, I'm sure everyone's heard of separate but equal. They're kind of like, we are putting separate and equal on ourselves. Like, we're saying we're equal, but we gotta be separate because we gotta listen to this, we gotta dress like this, hang out with this, date these people. But they have to do this and that and the other thing. That's separate but equal, and it didn't work in the 60s. What makes you think it's gonna work now? Learn from mistakes. And I mean, you would not believe how many times I've had someone come up to me and be like, why are you talking like that? You're black. You're black. It's like, yeah, no, I'm black. I have a mirror at home. What's your point? And it's just, I don't know. It's, like I said, I've just kind of woken up to how the world is. And I'll say it, I don't like everything. I don't like these expectations of me. I mean, I don't like it when I'm driving in my car and blasting Britney Spears' new CD, which is great, by the way. I love it. I know she's a little woohoo, but I love her. Not to get on Britney Spears. There's enough vlogs about her out there. But, I mean, like, when I'm driving down my car listening to her, and, a black neighborhood, and people are looking and be like, what's wrong with her? It's like, I like Britney Spears. I like pop, what? It's like, why? Why are you so, up in what I like, It's like, and then I even said, do you have like a white mother? Do you have a white father? It's like, no, I'm black. I just like what I like. It's like, relax. It's like, it's not that serious. And it's funny and it's sad at the same time. Like when you think about it, it's funny, but when it's going on, it's not funny. It's sad. It's like, and another thing, the word nigger. I mean, this has been touched on about so many times, but I need to touch on it. You know, I do not like being called a nigger. I don't want to be called a nigger by a white person. I don't want to be called a nigger by a black person. But, you have your, ghetto boy, and he'll scream out to the street to his fellow ghetto boy that, hey, nigger, what's up? But then, God forbid, a white person uses the word nigger. You're racist. You're, a bigot. You're terrible. You're horrible. You deserve to die, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like, you just called your best friend or your brother a nigger, yet, it's like, you can't make a double standard. You can't say this word is bad, but black person could use it, not a white person. That's ridiculous. And I mean, you can't. Like, remember that radio guy, Emus, and he said something about nappy-headed hoes, and I mean, he got fired for it. But those nappy-headed hoes, I guarantee you, a few of them were listening to Little John, and every other word is bitch, hoe, slut. It's kind of like, hello, hypocritical much? And, I mean, I'm saying this as a black person, so, I mean, no one can say that I'm racist because I'm black. What? But it's kind of like, yeah, I think, Emus was wrong. That was a pretty messed up thing to say, but so is Little John, Eminem, 50 Cent, all of them. They're wrong. They're not right. They're wrong. And you gotta look at everything. You can't say he can do this because he's that. That's racism. That's discrimination. And the same way you don't want, the white people to discriminate the black people. Well, not, the black people shouldn't be discriminating on white people either. Like, it's like it kind of goes both ways. Like, black people can't be sitting there calling white people white trash and honkies and crackers and then get mad when someone says nigger. You don't want to be called a racial slur. Don't be sitting there calling white people everything you can, think of. Don't call, people guaps and spics and whatnot and get mad when they turn around and be like nigger. It's not, it don't work that way. The same way if I go to a girl and be like, you're a bitch, and then she goes, you're a cunt, I can't expect, to be like, how dare you call me that? That wasn't nice. It's like I just called her something that was, making fun of her or saying something bad about her. She retaliated. People aren't going to sit there and just be like, they just called me white trash, but I'm white. I have to be sensitive to, the black plate or whatever. Yeah, there was slavery. It was terrible. There's racism. It's still terrible. And, it needs to go away. But it's not going to be going away by this. It's not going to be going away by, black people calling white trash and then, making a case when they say something back. And, it's going to go away by proving them wrong, proving the racist people out there wrong, Go to school, get an education, get a job higher than the person who's resisting you. Prove it prove who you are by doing what you need to do. Get a degree, get a PhD, get a good job, have good children, send them to good schools. That's how it's going to change. It's going to change when we make ourselves better. It sucks. I will agree we have to work about 5 times harder. I will agree that we have to work harder for jobs and everything. I will completely agree. But still, it doesn't mean that we can sit here and make excuses, because that's all it is an excuse. When a kid does something wrong and it says, oh, I'm sorry, this, and the other thing, they still get in trouble. We need to stop acting like children. If we want to be treated equal, if we want